Welcome back to pregame.tv. We're going to take a look at Friday night college football action, but we're taping on Wednesday, guys, and I only found out this morning. If I would have had a little more time, instead of a couple big balloons here on set, we would have got a stripper in here with
a couple big balloons.
With a couple big balloons and some cake for my man. Happy birthday, Ken. Way to go. How old are you? You want to let that one out?
Went from Dick Butkus to Jamal Wilkes, from 51 to 52.
Damn, I hate you. The guy, we're the same age for a couple months right now, and somebody has more hair.
For the time being.
Yeah, we're going to get into that when we talk about this game. He's a great announcer. He's a great broadcaster, great radio show talk host. But I'll tell you what, when he makes some proposition bets, not the brightest bulb in the drawer, let me tell you. We'll get to that in a moment. All right, Ken. Boise State, Fresno State. Boise played last week, Friday night, so they got the Friday to Friday. You know, all the time when you're playing a short week, sometimes, you know, it's a disadvantage, especially when you go on the road.
Right.
But they're a full week because they played last Friday. Now, for Fresno State, they would have been Saturday to Friday, right, but they would have been playing at home, so they wouldn't have to deal with the travel. But
oh, no. They would have been in Boulder.
Well, they would have been in Boulder, but they're home this week, so they don't have to travel on the short week.
Yeah, but still coming back from Boulder, wouldn't have got settled until Sunday, wouldn't even start looking at stuff filmed till Monday. So by the time they start practicing for the Boise game, you're looking at Tuesday for the Friday game.
So, and what we're alluding to is last week's game, you know, because of the flooding and stuff in Colorado, that game was canceled. Now, looking at this game, is it a plus or a minus for Fresno State having the extra week off? Now, if this game would have been played, say, in November, I say that's a huge advantage having the week off because, you know, your team's banged up, you get to heal some people. But really early in the season, do you really want that, you know, a so-called, you know, bye week early in the season because you're just getting your continuity in and you're not banged up yet, and they haven't played any physical teams yet. They opened the season with Rutgers, and that was like a flag football game.
That was a great game. It really was a lot of fun to watch.
Both teams went up and down the field in a 52-51 game, and then they played Cal Poly, and, you know, they didn't have to break a sweat there, basically. So is this team ready for Boise State?
I think they're ready for Boise State only because I think Boise State is definitely a notch below what we're used to from Chris Peterson teams. And again, they rebounded nicely. They beat Air Force by 22, laying 23.5, 24 out there. Yardage-wise, better than 250 more than Air Force. But if you watch the game, Air Force actually went up and down the field on Boise for a good portion of the game. Boise did have two clutch turnovers, one inside the 10-yard line that cost them a possible cover in the game. But again, it was much closer than the score indicated.
Yeah, and before we get to you to make it official, that's what I was going to allude to you about. The score was, you know, 3 touchdowns, but it never really had that feel of a 3-touchdown game. And my concern with Boise State is, you know, no, Air Force is not a great example because Air Force is a running team and Boise doesn't see that option, you know, all of the time. Right. It's tough to prepare for. But they've given up some yardage on the ground this year, Boise. Now, Washington steamrolled them the first week of the season. Different atmosphere, Pac-12 team, but they put up 268 yards on Boise. And then last week, you know, Air Force comes back and puts up, you know, 188 on them. Do you think they can handle this Fresno team? But Fresno's not a team that really is a running team. I mean, they like to pass the ball a lot, too.
And that's where it all comes into Derek Carr. Derek Carr being one of the elite quarterbacks, at least on paper and what everybody's telling you in the preseason magazines, this is a guy ready for the next step. Now, a lot of people have him second in the Mountain West Conference behind David Fales from San Jose State as far as a pro prospect. But again, his brother David made it to the NFL. We know he's being looked at. We know he has some solid receivers, 3 real good ones. Running game, definitely 2 notches down from what Robbie Rouse brought to the table last year.
Well, you know what? This is your free pick. Let's make it official.
We'll do it. All right, real quick, got to get this out there. Reason I said that Marco's hair may be longer than mine next week when we broadcast is because, like a dumb radio show host, I opened my mouth when a couple former Washington alum and Fresno alum were talking on my show saying we're both going to beat Boise, made them bet on the air. The loser was going to put the other one's logo shaved into the back of their head. Washington wins. Now Fresno probably wins. Like a dummy, I said, well, what if you both beat Boise? They said, well, great, Ken. Then you could put our logos in both sides of your head. Thinking August 12th that Boise never loses 2 regular season games, Thomson opened his big mouth. Sure, no problem. Now, week 4, I'm stressing big time. So I will have Fresno on the money line, a game, a bet. I hope I lose. But for you folks out there, I hope you win. I think Fresno is a better team. I know the 52-51 game against Rutgers that they opened with, they probably should have lost that game. Rutgers led that game between 3 and 10 points pretty much the whole way. And then Fresno able to tie it late. Rutgers misses a last-second field goal. And then in OT, Fresno gets the score. Rutgers matches it, but they go for 2 because they're on the road and they're already banged up, so they lose the game. So this is one of those Ken Karma plays. Trust me, Fresno State takes care of business. I'm hoping they take care of business by more than 3, so I win some extra money, but I'll also put some money on Fresno on the money line so I can at least pay for my haircut Saturday morning. Now, when I look at Boise last week against Air Force, they never really got the jump to where I thought they were going to cover the line. I thought that they would have to take a double-digit lead by half. Didn't do it. Again, Southwick was as solid as he could be. 29 of 31 for 304. You can't ask for better yards than that. He also rushed for a touchdown, but he's got Matt Miller, Kirby Moore. Remember his brother Kellen, the quarterback? Kirby Moore is a darn good receiver. I think he could actually play at the NFL, kind of like a Jordy Nelson-type receiver. Has good speed for a white boy and also can catch the ball. One of those solid receivers that can catch. And they also have Williams Rhodes as well. So 3 solid receivers there for Southwick to get the ball to. Defense, like Marco said, gave up 592 yards to Washington. Bishop Sankey, we watched him run all over them last year in the Vegas Bowl. Here it is, first game of the year. You figure they're going to make some adjustments. Another 160-plus for Bishop Sankey. And what was a 10-6 game in Washington in the third quarter turns into a 38-6 Washington rout. So Boise State, then they got Tennessee Martin at home. No big deal. Took care of business there. But then last week struggled with Air Force. And again, win the game by 22. But as Marco and I talked about, not indicative of how close that game was for a long period of time. And really, you never felt like Boise was going to cover the number. Meanwhile, as we look at Fresno State, Quezada, the transfer from BYU, he's a solid running back. But like Marco said, this is not the strength for Fresno State. They're going to need to run the ball a little bit to take pressure off Carr. If Carr just stands back there in the shotgun, Boise, Peterson, they will make adjustments and they will send pressure and they will force him into some quick throws. Now, look at Fresno State's receivers. Adams, Burst, Harper, all 3 of these guys between 16 and 19 receptions already. They've gone over 500 yards between the 3 of them and have 6 touchdowns. That is the key for this Fresno State offense. Again, they are at home. It's a Friday night. It's the only game in town. Derek Carr going to showcase his NFL talent. I know Southwick thinks he could be NFL. We'll wait and see. Boise's going to need a complete team effort to pull off the upset on the road. So my play against Ken's Karma and, of course, against Boise State on Friday night. Take Fresno State. I think they win this game between 7 and 14 points. Marco, that's my play. It's just the way things roll.
All right, birthday boy. And all fairness to my man, Ken, for making not the wisest bet. I got to let you guys know that he was slightly distracted that night on the radio show when he made that because he happened to have in studio that night. She played linebacker.
Danica Brace, middle linebacker, Las Vegas Sin, and she's a pretty blonde. No doubt.
And if you don't know about the Las Vegas Sin, it is the football lingerie league here in Las Vegas. I'm sorry. And I do your show. Where was my invite that night?
You're always invited to the studio, Marco.
Okay.
You, VR. Fezzik's really the only one that ever makes it down in person. And by the way, if you ever meet R.J. Bell, will you tell him just to send me a postcard so I know that he's not like Charlie's Angels? All you ever hear is the guy's voice. I've never seen the guy.
All right. He's Ken Thomson. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a look at Saturday college football action. Michigan goes to Connecticut. They had a scare last week. We'll see if that was warranted. That's up next. Pregame.tv.